Hey there. Before we begin, a note of warning. Although there's nothing graphic, I want to mention that sensitive topics are discussed around minute 25 that may not be suitable for our young listeners. If you are in crisis or need help immediately, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255 or search the web for a crisis center near you. Now on to the show. Today on Inspired Money.
And I remember this guy, Peter Kinch, and he said, if you have the ability to make more money and change the world and you're not doing so, you are selfish. Those words, I still remember where I was when I heard those words from Peter Kinch. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to do something.
This is episode 116 with founder of She Breaks Thru, Thembi Bheka. Welcome to Inspired Money. My name is Andy Wong, a managing partner at Runnymede Capital Management. Each week, we bring you an interesting person to help you get inspired, shift your perspectives on money, and achieve incredible things. From making it to giving it away, Inspired Money means making a difference, creating something bigger than oneself, and maybe, just maybe, making the world a better place. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Inspired Moneymaker. Welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Today, I want to share with you an African proverb, empower a woman, empower the nation. This is such a powerful idea. And as you'll see in this episode, I think that this is an important quote and theme to think about. Today's guest is Thembi Bheka. She's an award-winning real estate investor, coach, mentor, online marketing strategist, and host of the She Breaks Thru podcast. She believes in helping women reignite their passion, gain more clarity, and reconnect with their bigger purpose. She's also heavily involved with empowering women in Africa. In this episode, you'll learn how Thembi arrived in Canada as a refugee with $5 and went from surviving to thriving. We'll hear about her native Zimbabwe, and Thembi talks about the importance of impact and how we might all consider living with purpose. Now let's get inspired with Thembi Bheka. Thembi, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Andy. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
Being poor and never having enough money. That's really what I can remember from my childhood.
Yeah, so it's a lack of money.
A lack of money, yes.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe and I grew up there actually until I was 22.
And from there, you moved to Canada, I heard, with $5.
Yes. So what happened is I moved to Canada as a refugee, really with no money. And I actually got that $5 in the plane. And so I arrived in Canada not having enough money. And I started my journey there in Canada and really changed, I guess, my money story.
You arrived, you were a single mom with $5?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I was a single mom with $5 and I had left my daughter behind because I was coming from a relationship and I didn't have much of a choice, so I had to leave her behind. So getting to Canada was not only emotionally draining in the sense that I was trying to get used to the new country, but also in the sense that there was the limiting, maybe not the limiting belief per se, but the toughness and the hardness of having left a 10-month-old baby behind.
I can't even imagine what that's like emotionally.
Oh, it was so hard. It was so hard. I think I was depressed, but at that time I didn't know what depression was because we don't have depression where I come from. We do. It's just there's no term for that. So it was very emotionally draining.
As a refugee, you're coming to Canada. What is your goal other than survival? Do you even know what that's going to look like once you arrive?
One thing I remember when I came to Canada, I opened my first email. I never had an email before. And I opened my first email and there's letters I wrote in the plane. They said pause. And when I opened my email, you know how with the email, you used to, I think it was AOL, and you used to have a signature on it. And my signature was pause on it. And And what it meant, PAWDS, is PAWDS. It was Prominent Association of Widows, Divorces, and Spinsters. So I was so angry. I was so bitter. And at that time, what I wanted to do was to start an organization that was going to empower women. But also there was the survival part. But at the back of my mind, I was like, I'm just going to start an organization that's going to be empowering women, and it's going to be an association for widows, divorcees, and spinsters. And that anger started something in me, but it didn't. Unfortunately, when you get to a new country, there's settling in, there's all that stuff. It didn't start until many, many years later, which we're going to share later. But there was definitely that anger to try to start something new. But there was also that I just need a safe environment to live and to put food on my table.
Since most of us have never visited Zimbabwe, what was it like growing up there, and what were you leaving behind?
It's beautiful. It's a very beautiful country in regards to the nature, and it's a very beautiful country in regards to the people. I grew up in a very strong community where you value your neighbor, you respect your neighbor. Basically, if we have no salt, we just go and ask from our neighbors. If you've got no food, you just go and ask from your neighbors. Things have changed a little bit because they are now getting into the modernization, I guess, or rather the Americanization. But really, it was such a beautiful country growing up there. And, it's funny, Andy, because even though I came from a very poor family, I didn't realize that until I got to Canada. I knew we were not wealthy, but I didn't think we were that poor until I got to Canada.
And even without that realization, and once you got to Canada and you did have that realization, you grew up not with a lot of money, but were you happy?
Very happy. I was very happy. My mom was a single mom. When I was born, she basically lived in like a shanty house, like at the back of the main house. And that's where she lived. And then she moved to a one-roomed house. We lived there until I think I was in grade 7. And we moved to a 4-roomed house. And we were so happy without anything. But it's funny because even when you're that happy, you always think, oh, if I have more money, I'll be even more happier. But when I compare the level of happiness, I think I prefer the one I had when I was in Zimbabwe. Problems. You have fewer worries. So it's really hard to compare to that. But what I noticed is the life was less stressful compared to the life I had when I moved to Canada. Yeah, now my life has changed. But when I first moved to Canada, my life was so stressful, yet I had all this money.
Well, tell us, how were you able to go from $5 to surviving?
The first thing I did is I basically looked for jobs, just general jobs in Montreal. My first job was at a car wash. I washed cars, and then I went to the industry for a few days, and I actually did telemarketing before I even knew what telemarketing was. I basically thought it was just answering phones. And so I did that for a few years, and then I quit that job when I discovered what telemarketing was really. and I remember my boss, when he told me, I was like, oh, so this is what we're doing. We're basically scamming people. And so I quit that job and I went into caregiving, and I started taking care of older people. And I remember I had a friend of mine who was in the United States, and he said, you need to go into nursing. And I was like, I'm not going into nursing. I have an accounting background. I'm going to be an accountant. And he said this to me, he said, if you really want to get a job that's going to pay you very well as soon as you graduate in Montreal, which is French, you just have to go into nursing. And that's what I did. I just followed his advice.
But you had an accounting background, so was your plan to do something more business related?
Yes, my plan was to do something accounts or something like that. Honestly, I didn't know, but it was just to do something.
And was nursing a good path for you or not?
I think it was for a certain period, because first of all, it reminded me of who really I am, because I care about people, and that's really what drives me, caring about other people, and that fit in very well in nursing. And no, in the sense that I am not one to work for a job and to kind of listen to my boss, and I couldn't be in that environment for long.
So you were able to go to nursing school and then work as a nurse. And that provided, like that put food on your table. You were living much better.
Yeah. So what happened is the moment I graduated from nursing and my first job, I remember, I think the first week of my first job, I started complaining about nursing. I'm like, I'm not doing this forever. and because I was working night shift and I would stay up all night. And I was like, seriously? And one thing which really was very interesting for me is I remember seeing a woman who had been a nurse for 20 years and she had not retired. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, if people are still working for 20 years and not retiring, I'm not doing this. I have to find a way to get out of this because I'm not staying in this for 20 years. So I went into, I saw an ad in the newspaper. It said, get out of the rat race, invest in real estate. And I went to that seminar. And that's really how I ended up getting into real estate.
And the real estate seminar was useful. It was a good educational seminar. It wasn't a scam.
Well, it was a sales pitch. It was definitely a sales pitch and a scam. Some people invested a lot of money and lost it to buy property in Honduras. I didn't. But what I did is I bought a book at that seminar. It was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that actually I didn't even buy it. I think it came with the seminar. Like you went and you got that book for free. And that book changed the way I thought about money. Like it changed the way I thought about working and being an employee and everything. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I have to invest. I have to put some money away. I cannot just get in, because what I used to do actually prior to that, I would get paid every 2 weeks and I would send my mom $500 because I didn't know what to do with it.
Sending it back home.
Yeah, sending it back home. $500 every paycheck. Because I was like, I'm not sure what to do with it. Like, I have enough money. I don't need this. And I learned later on that it's good for me to invest and to save my money.
Yeah, that book is really big on passive income and developing streams of passive income so that you can make money while you're sleeping.
Exactly. So that's really what my goal was, to create income when I'm sleeping. So I decided, okay, I'm going to buy my first property. And I bought my first property and I continued buying properties, and those were to provide me with passive income.
How many properties were you able to amass?
I was able to amass enough. I don't like to talk about the numbers because the reason why I don't talk about the numbers anymore is because I've realized that people get caught up in the numbers of properties in regards to how many properties you need to retire. But it's not about how many properties you need to retire. It's about how much net worth and how much cash flow you can get from those properties. So, but what I did is I built enough portfolio such that in 5 years from the time I started in real estate investing, I was able to quit my nursing job and move to a city I liked, which was Kelowna.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So a big shift.
Yeah, it was a big shift. Mm-hmm.
Were these single family home? Like what kind of properties?
It was a mix. Yeah, mainly single family homes, half duplexes. And I started doing what's called rent to own, which basically is you buy and you flip. So you basically buy it, keep it for 2 years and flip.
What's the purpose for doing that?
Well, that was very lucrative. So for a deal in a rent to own, usually you're averaging about $30,000 per deal. So that was a lot of cash flow with that. Unlike buying long term, because when you buy long term, most of the cash flow you get is $100 or $200. So it's not a lot of money to retire. So for you to create really more income is to use these strategies like rent to own.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
So basically what you would do is you'll buy a property. I would buy a property. Let's say you are renting right now, Andy, and you're looking for a place to stay. So I'll buy a property and I would rent it to you so that you own. So instead of renting it to you, let's say for $1,200, I would rent it to you for $800. And I'll put a percentage in terms of how much I'm going to sell it to you in 2 years. So if I bought it for $250, I can decide that I'm going to sell it to you for $300 in 2 years. Put a certain percentage. There's a formula to that. And you're going to be paying me $2,000 every month. And out of that $2,000 every month, and I'll take a little percentage, say $400, and say that's going to go to a down payment. This is good for people who can't save for their down payment, or they have bad credit or something like that. So you are basically locking in your house at $300,000 today. So even if the prices go up, you are not affected. If the prices go down, you're kind of affected, but I'll sell it to you for $300,000. So what happens to me is at the end, I bought this property for $250. selling it to you for $300,000 in 2 years. I'm making $50,000 plus the mortgage pay down, plus the rent which you've been paying for me and all that stuff. So it ends up being lucrative that way.
You keep trying to do that.
Yes. So you do as many properties as you can.
Coming up, Thembi wants to help people back home in her native Zimbabwe, empower women, and she starts a new project. All that and more right after this short break. The show notes for this episode can be found at inspiredmoney.fm/116. If you're listening in your car or wherever you are, check the show notes if you want to learn more about Thembi or other things mentioned in this episode. It's time for the Runnymede Money Tip of the Week. Before we get to the money tip, a quick follow-up. If you listened to episode 115 with Lisa Wang, you may recall that I mentioned my DIY project of regrouting my shower tile. It's not a super hard job, but I'll admit that I'm not good at it. Well, we haven't used the upstairs shower all week, but I'm almost done. I'll finish caulking the corners this weekend, so the shower will be back in action in just a couple days. I learned a lot and got better, but I should definitely stick to my day job. That's why I want to share a case study with you today. It'll give you some insight into one of the things that we do, and it'll also help you know what to look for in your own 401k plan. So last year, we were approached by a company that had a 401k at Paychex. A lot of small businesses have their retirement plans offered through their payroll company that they use, and most often that's Paychex or ADP. Whether you're a business owner offering a plan or an employee contributing into a plan, you need to pay attention to two key things. That's fees and performance. So we were hired to replace the previous financial advisor to the plan because I don't think that they saw much of that person in terms of education and advice for the employees. I quickly saw that whoever helped set up this plan didn't do a really great job either. When I reviewed the investment lineup, I observed that there were only 10 choices. One of them was a money market fund. The average cost or the expenses of those funds were 1.05%. Half of the funds charged over 1% annually, with the highest at almost 1.4%. Also, these funds were not performing well. You could see really quickly looking at the historical performance and Morningstar ratings that these funds were underperforming. Fees and performance are really important for these reasons. If you're a business owner, you're the sponsor of the plan. The plan trustee or trustees have a legal responsibility to review the plan regularly for cost and other factors to make sure that it's the best plan for all participants. If not, worst case scenario, you could face a lawsuit or there could be penalties from the Department of Labor. That's why a key part of my job is to help business owners document their process of reviewing the investments and making ongoing improvements to the plan. If you're an employee using the plan, oftentimes the fees come out of your account, so high fees are an unnecessary drag on the growth of your retirement savings. Lower fees means more money for you. And obviously, you want well-performing funds for more growth too. Here's what we did with this plan. First, we switched the plan to Paychex Open Architecture option. That includes and allows for a larger universe of fund choices. The lineup got a major upgrade. First, we added Vanguard Target Date funds. Target Date funds, if you remember, are the set it and forget it option, where an employee can select a fund based on his or her projected date of retirement. The portfolio mix between stocks and bonds will automatically be adjusted as you approach retirement age. Vanguard Target Date funds are a solid option, and the fees are super reasonable at under 0.15% or 15 basis points. If you feel that you're a unique snowflake and you want to pick your own funds, for those, we added passive and active choices. 16 funds in total that cover large cap, mid cap, small cap, growth, value, international, as well as bonds. Better choices allow for better diversification. Better performance can get you higher potential growth over time. And best of all, we got the average expenses down to 0.29% or 29 basis points. That's better than 0.75% in savings every year. One more actionable tip for you based on this example. I visited this company a couple days ago, and it was the first time that I got to meet the owner, and I got to give a presentation on the plan for all the participants. One woman at the end during the Q&A, she said that at her previous job, she had contributed to her plan for over 15 years, but she had never picked her funds. So therefore, her money sat in a money market fund, returning only 1% to 3% every year. She never realized until later that her money, even though she was contributing to the plan, was never really growing and working for her. When I got back to the office, I reviewed other employees' accounts. And similarly, I found a 30-year-old woman who had done the same. So I got to speak to her today so she won't repeat the mistake that her older coworker made. Make sure that your 401k investment selections have been made and review them regularly. Today, many plans have a default option, so if you start contributing but you never picked your funds, there is a default investment, which is usually a target date fund, but not all plans have a default option. Don't make the mistake of sitting in a money market fund for 10 years, 20 years, or you'll be disappointed and most likely you won't be retirement ready. That's the Runnymede Money Tip of the Week. Inspired Money is brought to you by Runnymede Capital Management. We help you to plan, invest, and worry less. So with the case study that I outlined today, I have this ask for you. If you're a business owner with a 401k plan, reach out. I'm happy to review your plan to see if I can be of help. Or if you're an employee and you're concerned that you don't have good fund choices or that your funds carry high fees, also reach out. I'm happy to review your plan and would really appreciate an introduction to your company to see if we can work together. As always, you can reach me by going to inspiredmoney.fm/Andy. That's inspiredmoney.fm/Andy. You can email me through the form or email me at firm@runnymede.com. That's FIRM@RUNNYMEDE.com. I'd love to hear from you. You're listening to Inspired Money. I'm Andy Wong. And at that time, you're no longer a nurse. Mm-hmm. How are you spending your days?
Well, it didn't last long for me to be just staying at home. So how I did it is not like I just quit nursing. Absolutely. I continued doing what's called casual nursing. You go when you want to. So I'll go once or twice a week. And then the rest of the days will be at the beach, basically, with the kids and doing nothing. And you can only do that for so long. I started getting bored. I was like, I need to do something. And so I started saying, what can I do? And I was listening to a real estate tape, cassette, I guess that's what it's called. And I remember this guy, Peter Kinch, and he said, if you have the ability to make more money and change the world and you're not doing so, you are selfish. Those words, I still remember where I was when I heard those words from Peter Kinch. And I was like, oh my goodness. I need to do something.
Where were you?
I was driving, turning to my house by the corner from the highway, turning into the driveway, which goes to my house. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to be doing something. And so when he said that, I was like, I need to start something. And I went home and I started researching. And I was like, wow, can I do? I always wanted to help in Africa. I always wanted to help people in Africa. What can I do to help these people in Africa? So I started researching how to teach them how to invest in real estate. And I came across online marketing. And I learned that you could teach people online how to invest in real estate without even having to go to where they live. So I started doing that. But I realized that the people I was attracting are the people I didn't want to empower. Not in the sense that I didn't want to empower, but they were not really the people I cared about mostly. And I know that in Africa, the most people were affected were women. And all my students were male. I was like, how can I do this? And so I kind of continued teaching real estate, but not really concentrating a lot on it. And then a couple years back, 2017, I went to Zimbabwe. And when I got there, I saw a very desperate situation. Like women were in mostly women. I mean, everybody was in terrible situation, but mostly women, they were doing uncomfortable things just to put food on the table. That's when I was like, I am changing everything and I am changing my model and starting afresh.
Is that because it's a more male-dominated society?
Yes, it's very male-dominated and very patriarchal society. And obviously the women find themselves being the ones who are disadvantaged in those kind of situations.
When you went back to Zimbabwe in 2017, were you searching for something at that time?
No, I was going for a wedding. I was going for my cousin's wedding, and I read an article in the paper about a girl who had committed suicide because she was tired of trading her body for sex. And to put food on the table. So she killed herself and she killed her 2 children. And that's really was the main trigger for me. I was like, I have to do something about this. So I came back to Canada, kind of wrapped up, and I went to Zimbabwe. And at first I thought I was going to teach them how to invest in real estate. But I realized these women needed to create income. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to teach them how to be online marketing, like what I had done, teach skills online. But they didn't even have enough money to even start a website or anything. Like, they were not there. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I started teaching them how to be virtual assistants. So basically to work online as other people's assistants.
And being a virtual assistant, you can monetize much more quickly than real estate. Real estate may take time.
Exactly. It takes forever. Yeah.
It's a longer game versus these women need money right now.
Tomorrow. Yeah. So we did that.
So tell us about your brand, because I know that you recently just made changes to the website. This is something that you've been working on leading up to our meeting.
Yeah. So basically what happened is we worked with these girls, and we've kind of just been trying to see what works better for them and what works better for us as a company. So our company is called Virtual Staff on Demand. So you basically get a virtual assistant on demand whenever you want, 24/7, unlimited services, and you pay a monthly retainer fee. Depending on what package you choose, you pay a monthly retainer fee, and you can get access all the time.
And are most of the users that you're trying to attract, are they US based, or does it matter where they are?
It doesn't matter where they are. Most of our clients are mainly based in the US right now, in Canada. We do have a few in Europe, but really it doesn't matter where they are. And basically this is someone who's looking for an assistant who can work for you 24/7, and we can provide that service.
To what extent is it a motivation for someone? Because you can find a virtual assistant anywhere in the world today. It's very much a smaller world. It's very much international, globally connected. But someone using your service, they should know that they're actually helping a woman in Zimbabwe change their life in, I would imagine, a very impactful way.
You know, I'm going to say this. I've noticed the difference in the work ethic from people who I've hired in North America, because I have hired in North America and I've hired in Zimbabwe as well. And I've noticed a big difference. And the reason is because people who are hungry will go out of their way to satisfy your needs. And that's what I have noticed. This is their life. This is their income. This is their bread and butter. So they are willing to work hard, extra hard, just to do the work for you. And sometimes it might mean doing a couple corrections, but we oversee all the work. That's the other thing with the difference with our company. Unlike when you go to hire somebody on a regular hiring website, these girls are trained. They are trained by actually a virtual assistant company in the US, which is based in the US virtually. And I add on to that training. That same company oversees their work before it even comes to you. So basically everything you do, we oversee it, we look over it to make sure it's the right work that's doing. So you are not only empowering a woman in Africa, you are also changing somebody's life. You are changing a community. When you empower a woman in Africa, you basically empower the whole community.
It's really powerful. How does that make you feel?
You know, I say this, I rediscovered my lioness within with this project. Because my life was starting to feel like dry toast with real estate, and it was like, okay, whatever, real estate. But when I started doing this, it was like a new light had been reignited. It's just been a life changer for me.
And how often do you have to go back to Zimbabwe?
I go back quite a lot. With this project, I go back quite a lot now. I probably stay about 2 to 3 months in Canada, and then I just go and spend about the same in Zimbabwe.
Do you know how many women you're creating jobs for? And like, how big can it get?
Oh, there is no limit, right? This year alone, and the year is not even over, we've trained 84 women. And it can get big. And this is the thing about it, and it's not just about this one person. One woman in Zimbabwe caters for about 5 to 6 people. So basically, if you multiply that by 5 to 6, that's 500 people,
Wait, explain that again, the five or six.
Okay, so what I mean by that is, as a woman, for me, if I was working and having a decent job, I'll take care of my mom, my dad, my siblings, and my cousins. It's actually 5 to 6 is minimum. Like when I look at the impact, which I did just by coming to Canada, the ripple effect in my family, it's about at least 30 people who were affected. And this is not just my immediate family. This will be like my uncle and his kids and other people who have helped sponsor to come to Canada or help them one way or another. So there's that ripple effect. So when you empower one person, you're basically empowering a community. And research has shown that one woman in Africa has like a 5 to 6 ripple effect.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's huge for you. It's huge for your company. It's huge for your customers who are US based or in Canada using the service.
Exactly. It's basically hiring with purpose instead of just hiring. And most companies right now, when you look at the companies which are very successful and doing well, they don't just hire because they hire anybody, but they hire with purpose, with intention to change the world. And those are the companies that are successful.
What's your advice for people for finding their passion and finding their, I think you called it, lioness within?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you should really look at what makes you cry, what really ticks those boxes, and what is it that you don't want to see happening to your children and your life. And it could be financial bankruptcy. It could be divorce. It could be anything. And I want to share this because a lot of people get it confused with their day job. It doesn't have to be your day job. Your day job could be something else, but you could use your spare time or your extra money to finance this project and help yourself.
So it goes back to the quote that you shared. There are many different ways to be giving back towards charity and making an impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does not have to be financial all the time.
I love it. Can you tell us the website name again?
Yeah, virtualstaffondemand.com. If you can just go to virtualstaffondemand.com, you'll find out how you can hire the girls. And also, if you just go about me page, you'll know a little bit more about them. And so would love to have you there. And if you feel inclined, not actually if you feel inclined, you must do this. Come listen to my website, shebreaksthru.com.
Shebreaksthru.com. That's something else that you're doing separate from the virtual assistants.
Yes, it's just a podcast I love doing, talking to women who've made breakthroughs and how they did it.
I love it. You're inspiring more people and more entrepreneurs, and specifically a focus on women.
Yes.
Whether it's in Zimbabwe or globally.
Yeah. Yes, I'm all about empowering women because I believe women are the future. Women are the ones who are going to change this world.
Yes. I recently interviewed Tanya Katan. I don't know if you've seen It Was Never a Dress. What she did was she took the ladies' room logo, the woman in a dress, but instead of a dress, the colors were changed because it's not a dress, it's a cape. So It Was Never a Dress is recognizing that all women, they're actually superheroes.
Yes, we are. We are.
And it's been in front of us all this time, just people didn't look at it the right way. They didn't realize.
Exactly. When you look at, your wife or any woman in your life, you see that the work they have done bringing you up and making your home your real home compared to when you look at it. And I'm not saying that there are not men out there who do this. There are great men out there, but usually the women are the ones who are responsible for the taking care of the children and really making sure everything is taken care of.
Well, I think that progress is being made, but no doubt there is still a lot of room because you look at income inequality.
Yes.
And there's still a big gap.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
I believe success is measured by how many people you impact every day.
And you are doing that more and more, it sounds like.
That's what drives me. That's what drives me. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing your personal story, your professional and business story. It is very inspiring. Can you tell the Inspired Money listener where they can find you, follow you, and learn more?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Andy. So you can go, as I said, to virtualstaffondemand.com or shebreaksthru.com. The through is THRU.com. You can also find us on podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, those big platforms. You can find us anywhere, really.
You are everywhere.
We are everywhere. If you just Google Thembi Bheka, you'll find me everywhere.
Thank you, Thembi.
Thank you, Andy.
So what was your favorite inspired money moment? Thembi's story really is inspiring and amazing. She's self-made, from refugee to nurse to real estate investor. Most of all, I love her idea of living with purpose and impact. I hope that her virtual assistant business continues to grow and empowers women and their families in Africa. Think about how you might make a greater impact. If you want accountability, share your idea in the Inspired Moneymakers Facebook group at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook. I hope that you enjoyed today's show, and thank you so much for joining me on this mission. The music you're listening to right now and all other music on today's show is by the amazing Jim Kimo West. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.